What should have been the Southern Coastal Highway is now the South Coast Highway Improvement Project. Welcome to the fourth in a series of news magazine podcasts. Get the facts. Don't watch the hype. They are just doing it to score desperately needed and cheap political points. They are anti-infrastructure and I am going to prove it to you. Dr. Portia Lucretia, Mama P. Simpson Miller and the PNP before they lost power in 2016, put everything in place for the construction of not only the Southern Coastal Highway, but also the east-west May Penn to Williamsfield and the Williamsfield to Montego Bay legs of Highway 2000, the Western Children Adolescents Hospital, the Old Harbor LNG power plant, the Morant Bay Urban Center in St. Thomas and the Kingston Economic Zone Logistics Hub, to name a few of her projects. This JLP regime are in sixes and sevens as it relates to the Cornwall Regional Hospital repairs, what with a massive cost overrun. At the time of making this video August 6, 2023 they would have completed 7 years and 5 months in office. Deep into their second term, the JLP government have not completed a single one of these projects. In a lot of the cases they have diverted the funds to other less important ones. Jamaicans home and abroad should remember the 2017 by-election in southeast St. Mary and the Junction Main Road saga where Holness took off his shoes to cross a flooded river in pursuit of votes. Just over 6 years later in 2023 and those hype seems to have died a natural death. They seem to have given up on that road repair. I keep telling people that if the Junction Main Road problem is to be solved, don't expect it from a JLP regime. They don't have the will, the skill, the know-how, the where-it-all or the intellectual capacity to do same. It is as simple as that. The PNP administration of January 2012 to February 2016 with Dr. Simpson Miller at the helm completed the North-South Highway in a little over 3 years with the same China Harbor Engineering Company, Czech, doing the construction. I am sure that you will agree with me that of all the modern road construction that have taken place in Jamaica in the 21st century, the north-south leg of Highway 2000 is the most difficult terrains to maneuver, much more to do road construction. Now back to the St. Thomas leg. If you are not too busy, please watch this video to the end. You will see that this was not what Dr. Simpson Miller planned for St. Thomas. Don't allow yourselves to be fooled any further. They were totally against the building of the Southern Coastal Highway. I have attached some evidence to strengthen my video, with sources from a few newspaper articles and also a report from RJR mainstream electronic media in Jamaica. The JLP originally planned on scrapping the Southern Coastal Highway, but after constant pressure from the then opposition leader Dr. Simpson Miller, and a threat of protest action by some residents, they relented and decided to go ahead with the work, albeit a watered-down version. Watered down version is not the reason why she'd gotten the USD $385 million loan from China. The entire loan was supposed to be spent on St. Thomas. She had planned a brand new highway, but the JLP regime watered down the project, diverted a portion of the funds elsewhere, and remarked they will improve on the existing road in St. Thomas. If there's any doubt, just check out the north-south leg of Highway 2000 that she built. The entire 66 miles of roadway from Ferry in Kingston to Drax Hall in St. Ann near Ocho Rios was a brand new road when it was opened in 2016, just after she lost state power again. My, what a waste of a leader that was truly sincere. The PNP started that project in 2007 before losing state power. On winning the election, the JLP showed little or no interest in the project until they eventually abandoned it in 2009 without completing a single leg. On their return to power in 2012, the PNP restarted work, completed it, and though it was in full use from 2015, it wasn't officially opened until Holness gave it to SIGA in 2018. Notice the difference in the naming of the St. Thomas project. What should have been the Southern Coastal Highway, which would comprise a brand new 6 lanes dual carriageway, have now become the South Coast Highway Improvement Project. This means they're improving on, or some would say renovating the existing road for a very large part of the project, with countless anomalies, issues and problems of course. The work going on there is classified as road improvement and not highway construction, so you see what these dishonest people are bragging about and using as a re-election campaign tool, weren't even planned that way. According to the following Gleaner article, if it wasn't for a community leader in St. Thomas, the lady who threatened to protest, the JLP government would have scrapped the entire project. The following are excerpts from the mainstream media. Take a listen. The Gleaner, published Thursday, June 16, 2016, 12 a.m. St. Thomas relief. Holness declares highway still coming to parish southeast. Faced with concerns that St. Thomas was being treated as the forgotten parish, once again, Prime Minister Andrew Holness used a press conference yesterday to assure residents that they would get a highway, though not on the scale once imagined. Holness announced that the highway would include a 4-lane thoroughfare running from Harbour View in St Andrew to Bull Bay, which lies on the border of both parishes. That section of the highway will cover 6.8 kilometers, 1/6 of the distance that was originally planned to run from Harbour View to Morant Bay. As the project continues to Port Antonio, Portland, it will be reduced first to a 3-lane roadway and then to 2 lanes. Initially, the Dr. Simpson Miller's PNP administration in 2015 announced that $385 million would be spent to build a new highway running from Harbour View to Port Antonio as part of the Southern Coast Highway project. Holness now says a similar amount of money, $384 million, will be spent for the improvement of road network in the southeastern and southwestern sections of Jamaica. There will be an upgrade of the road between Bull Bay and Morant Bay, which may include minor realignments of the road, a truck lane where required, and the reduction of deep corners and steep grades, as well as the improvement of the road from Morant Bay to Port Antonio and Morant Bay to Cedar Valley, which is not being considered as a toll road at this time. The Prime Minister called the press conference following Finance Minister Audley Shaw's announcement on Wednesday that the original highway plan, which Shaw said would now cost $500 million, does not make economic sense, and would be reconsidered. We believe this is a far more cost-effective plan as it will reduce the need for massive land acquisition. In fact, under the former plan, there would be a cost of approximately $120 million to acquire land and other civil infrastructure, Holness argued yesterday. Always praising themselves. Its new plan would also reduce the negative impact on communities and the environment. We believe that this plan is a better plan. It gives access, it gives a better road, reduces cost, and still achieves the objectives that we want. It is not yet clear how the change in plans will affect the developmental prospects for that side of the country, but the downgrade of the work coincides with what Holness said. Would be an extension of the existing toll road from Maypen, Clarendon, to Manchester. The revenue generated from this leg will partially support the repayment of the loan, he said, adding that his administration believed in projects that made economic sense. Of the $384 million to cover the project, $326,500,000 will come from a loan being finalized with Exim Bank of China. The Jamaican government will be providing the remaining $57 million. Meanwhile, the two St. Thomas Members of Parliament (MPs) have given their support to the project. The people of St. Thomas are united around the issue. It is not a PNP People's National Party, or JLP Jamaica Labour Party issue. I have some clarity now given the fact that the project is still on, said Dr. Fenton Ferguson, St. Thomas Eastern representative for the PNP. James Robertson, JLP MP for St. Thomas Western, said he supports the plan announced by Holness. After Shaw indicated that the government was planning to scrap the original plan for the highway project in the parish, Dorrit Abrahams, secretary of the St. Thomas Parish Development Committee, warned of social unrest. We will have to do a Paul Bogle, meaning a rebellion, she told the Star yesterday. Stakeholders have accepted that St. Thomas's economic prospects have been undermined by historically limited investment in infrastructure to make the parish attractive to investors. The following is another Gleaner newspaper article. Published Thursday, June 16, 2016, 12 a.m., Mark Titus wrote. Government scraps St. Thomas highway plans, announces toll road for Montego Bay. Citing economics behind the decision, Finance Minister Audley Shaw has revealed that his government will not follow through on the construction of the Southern Coastal Highway, planned by the previous administration for eastern Jamaica, even as he announced the establishment of a 4-lane bypass road for the city of Montego Bay. Addressing a luncheon hosted by the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and Industry during the annual staging of its development forum at the Montego Bay Convention Center yesterday, Shaw revealed that the government has looked at the economic viability of several road improvement projects proposed by the previous administration. Does not make sense. How could we justify spending $500 million on a highway to St. Thomas? It just does not make economic sense, Shaw argued. Even if it is unpopular, the government has a duty to do the necessary due diligence, and what I want to assure the people of St. Thomas is that in the recasting of the estimates, we are going to ensure that there is a decent road from Harbour View to Morant Bay. This is exactly what they're doing. Shaw said repairs and realignment work would also be done on the 65-kilometer stretch from Morant Bay to Port Antonio. He also announced that the government would construct a 4-lane toll road to bypass the town center of the city of Montego Bay at a projected cost of $200 million. Currently, motorists traveling through the popular tourist capital are forced to endure long delays along the 2.31 kilometers Howard Cook Boulevard and the alternative route, which takes them through the heart of the commercial district. Stakeholders have argued that the tourist capital, earmarked for billions of dollars in investment in the coming years, could have major problems if infrastructure is not in place to support proposed commercial developments. Shaw said the bypass would begin in Ironshore, run through Flower Hill, and end at Westgate. Mark.Titus@gleanergym.com. Another Gleaner newspaper article reads: Government abandons South Coast Highway plan, announces Montego Bay Toll Road. Finance Minister Audley Shaw says the government intends to abandon plans for the construction of the Southern Coastal Highway from Morant Bay in St. Thomas to Harbour View in East Kingston. Instead, he said the administration will be focusing on building a toll road in Montego Bay. The following was a news release from the RJR Communications Group. RJR News 12:25 p.m., Monday, August 26, 2019. Contract signed for Phase 1 of the South Coast Highway Improvement Project. Work is scheduled to begin by the end of next month on the South Coast Highway Improvement Project, starting with the section from Harbour View in St. Andrew to Cedar Valley in St. Thomas. A contract was signed Monday morning by the government of Jamaica and representatives of China Harbour Engineering Company. The work will be financed by a USD $384 million loan from the China Exim Bank. Of that sum, USD $195 million will be spent on this first section, while the remaining USD $189 million will be used to extend the east-west toll road from Maypen in Clarendon to Williamsfield, Manchester. The JLP are so against building proper infrastructure. This is why I say they're anti-infrastructure. The building of the first Causeway Bridge, the Jamaica Labour Party wasted millions of dollars of taxpayers' money when in 1969 they built a two-lane causeway bridge on the St. Andrew-St. Catherine border at Hunts Bay. This colossal waste of taxpayers' money saw citizens of Portmore in 21st century Jamaica, on weekdays stuck in traffic jams stretching for miles back to Passage Fort Drive to the west in the mornings and back to Marcus Garvey Drive to the east in the evenings, just to cross the two-lane bridge that existed before the six-lane one that replaces it at the turn of the century. It was often reported that motorists had to leave home in Portmore from as early as 4 a.m. to get to work in Kingston for 9 a.m. A lot of the times they got stuck in traffic jams caused by the two-lane bridge and ended up reaching work late. The People's National Party in the new millennium had to spend huge sums of taxpayers' money to correct that piece of waste. With multiple errors and faults, the Jamaica Labour Party was compelled to do the little they did there. The making of a border crossing from St. Andrew to St. Catherine was all a part of the right excellent Norman Washington Manly post-independence plans. That's for another video in this series though. The people mistaken voted for the JLP in 1962, so the JLP had to carry out the construction. What they ended up building was a watered-down version of the original plan, a plan riddled with errors and faults. A lot of the PNP time and power is spent correcting these JLP failures. Fast forward to the present, and the PNP in 2000 had to correct those errors made back then with the two-lane bridge that was slipping off the pillars. With a modern and proper first world standard 6 lanes inter-parish bridge, this was nothing that the JLP could ever dream of. In truth and in fact, the Jamaica Labour Party opposed the building of the more modern bridge. They opposed it in such a way that then opposition leader Orette Bruce Golding took the then government to court in early 2007, but as fate would have it, the Jamaica Labour Party won the election in September that year. They became government. They then later realized that the case was against the government of Jamaica, so they ended up having a case in court against themselves. The issue gradually faded away. All modern highways and major road improvement projects across the length and breadth of Jamaica are the brainchild of the People's National Party. The Jamaica Labour Party opposed all these projects initially, then find themselves reluctantly coming on board later. The Southern Coastal Highway is no different. It is a branch of the Highway 2000 network. The very thought of the entire project is a PNP initiative. Who remembers the Jamaica Labour Party while in opposition in 1999, and when this project was announced by then Prime Minister the Most Honourable Percival Noel James Patterson, how the JLP led by their financial wizard, and then opposition leader Edward Philip George Sega opposed that vision with all their vim, vigor and vitality. For this and other videos, please visit and subscribe to the TikTok Shamar_L_Sharma on the Facebook, Instagram and YouTube channels of the One Jack Ulrich Horner. Capitalists show a posse, fake prosperity keeps standing in the way of Jamaica and progress. The views expressed in this article are solely those of yours truly and not those of the People's National Party.